Imagine boarding a bus at night. You don't know the driver. You don't know the route. You assume the destination is safe. Why? Because the driver seems confident in that he knows where he's going. Halfway through the ride, you realize the road signs don't make any sense, and the bus is accelerating towards a downhill. The problem is not the bus. The problem is not the bus that you're sitting on. The problem is you trusted the wrong driver. See, Jesus opens us up with a warning about discipleship that is far more dangerous than we often assume. He's not asking us if we have a teacher. He's asking us who that teacher is. And because that's important, whoever is your teacher, they are shaping where you're going. They're shaping who you're becoming. They are shaping what you ultimately will reveal. Now, I need you to understand, you can be coming to church every Sunday, and I could not be your teacher. You could be listening to radio stations, listening to podcasts, listening to people, and those people are not your teacher. I need you to take a serious evaluation this morning and just process with me who really is your teacher. Because whoever that person is, they are shaping the way you think. They're shaping the way you act. They're shaping the way you talk. They're shaping everything about you. You can be in somebody's presence, at their table, let me make it plain, in their house, but they still may not be your teacher. Now, why is this important? I would tell students all the time as they would work with me at the seminary, I'm very careful about who I let in my mind because I'm not original. Everything that I know, someone taught me. Everything about me comes from somebody else. So therefore, I've got to be very guarded and careful about who I allow in this temple because I am becoming, acting, and being as they are. Jesus exposes this as we look at Luke chapter 6, verses 39 to 45. And I want you to take a look at that with me as you turn in your Bibles. And let's take a look at what Jesus says, because we want to unpack this, because I think it's important that we all think about it, because I need you to hear me well, especially the young people. Young people come to church because they have to most of the time, not because they want to. Because if you gave them the option, many of them will be watching video games right now and not be here. Okay? Now, for the young people, many older people come to church because they have nothing else to do. And so they show up, or because they feel like it's the right thing to do, or somebody forced them to be here. It's a lot of reasons why people come to church, but a lot of those reasons don't boil down to one simple reason. Are they coming because they want to, and because they want to hear from the Lord, and they trust the one that's articulating that truth to them? See, it's important you get that, because people come to church for many reasons. I've been doing this for over 35 years. I don't get excited when people come to church. I get excited when I understand why they're here. I don't get excited because someone listened to the message. I get excited with what they do with that message, because watch this. I understand who I'm teaching and who I'm not teaching. I understand who's listening and who's not listening, not because you sit and look so pretty and look so handsome and smell so nice on Sunday, but what you do when you walk away from here, but what I've said. See, there are 4 types of listeners before we get into the passage. You got the listeners who come, and ain't no sleep like church sleep. Woo, that Holy Ghost sleep is the best kind of sleep. And as soon as I start talking, their bodies get all relaxed, and they hear what I've said, and it's in one ear and out the other. Then you get those other people, they emotionally excited. Ooh, that was just some good stuff they heard. They get so emotionally excited about it, but do absolutely nothing with it. Then you get those other people who, they're smart and they understand it, but you know what? They're too distracted with the cares and riches and pleasures of this world, so they do absolutely nothing with what I've said. And then you have some people here who are hearing and doing something with it. Those are the ones that are being influenced by the word. I want you to ask yourself, which one of those listeners are you? In Luke chapter 6, verses 39 to 45, listen to these words, and we're going to try to unpack these words together to kind of see where it takes us as we process this together. You know, and he also spoke a parable to them. A blind man cannot guide a blind man, can he? Will they not fall into a pit? A pupil is not above his teacher, but everyone after he has been fully trained. Catch that? Everyone after he has been fully trained, not someone, everyone after he has been fully trained will be like his teacher. That's important. Then he goes on to say, why do you look at the speck that's in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that's in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out in your eye, when you yourself do not see the log that's in your own eye? You hypocrite. First, take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck that is in your brother's eye. For there is no good tree which produces bad fruit, nor on the other hand a bad tree which produces good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they pick grapes from a briar bush. The good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth what is good, and the evil man out of the evil brings forth what is evil, for his mouth speaks that which fills his heart. Man, we want to take some time and unpack this, because I need you to walk away this morning asking and answering a simple question. Who's your teacher? I know where you're in church this morning. That's irrelevant. Who's your teacher? Because whoever your teacher is, they're shaping everything about who you are. The first part, looking at verse 39, backing up, he says, if you follow the spiritually blind, you will be led into a ditch because you are blind. Verse 39, let's go back to the verse. He says, a blind man cannot guide a blind man, can they? Will they not both fall into a pit? Let me show you how a blind man is, because some of you don't know it, but you're listening to blind men, and it makes sense and sounds good to you. And here's how blind men operate. Blind guides, they teach traditions of man instead of the truth of God. They teach traditions, and they'll tell you all the traditions, and you know this is how we do things, and this is how it's been, and this is how it works. And you know what? You start saying, well, this is how we do things, and this is how it's been, and this is how it works. And you grow up all your life learning this is the way we do it. Like that song, this is how we do it, boom, boom, boom. Anyway, you spend your whole life listening to tradition headed for destruction. But then blind guides, watch this, they don't just teach tradition, they'll teach personal preferences instead of biblical precepts. This is how I've done it, this is the way I think it ought to be done, and guess what? This is the way you're going to do it. This is how I've done it, this is the way it needs to be done, this is how you're going to do it. And then another generation, this is how I've done it, this is the way it needs to be done, this is the way you do it. And they spend most of their time teaching you preferences. That's how married couples get in trouble. Because what happens is, this is how my family would do things. And then the husband would say, well, this is how my family would do things. And both think that their way is the only way because that's all they know. And then it becomes a clash. And then there's a lot of bitterness and anger over preferences because my family's way of doing it is the only way. No, that's the only thing you know. But guess what? If that's all you know and you've been influenced by it, you stand strong with it. And there's nothing wrong with the preference until that preference becomes the standard by which you judge other people. It becomes the standard by which everything else to be done. Guess what? Now it brings destruction. Blind guides teach you by tradition. They teach you preferences. But thirdly, blind guides do not know the way of God, so they cannot show you the way to God. Because all they know is tradition. All they know is preferences. There was a group of hikers. They were hired to guide some people through this narrow trail. And these hikers, they spoke confidently like they knew where they were going. And so other people, when they would see them, they would say, hey, take us on the trail. We got you. We know where we're going. Well, no one knew that they really didn't know where they were going. They were just very confident. And so some people got with them, and as they got with them, they began to be guided, and they all got lost together. Why? Because the ones guiding didn't know where they were going. See, there are a lot of people who have spiritual confidence, but they lack biblical insight. And they know and think they know a lot, but they're leading you in the wrong direction because, watch this, TikTok and sound bites and all of that's cute, but a broke clock is right twice a day. And if you're guided and guarded by TikTok and all of that, again, I like TikTok and I like Reels. I'm not saying anything wrong with that. But if that's your spiritual guidance, that's where you get your insight from, and you share that with everybody else, have you checked the entire message? Be careful about who is shaping your perspective. Here's the second point. Y'all with me so far? That's his first point. Second point is he breaks it down. He says, your teacher is leading you to become all of who he or she is. Look at what he says in verse 40. And let this sink in, because this is true of all of us. Doesn't matter who you are. This is happening to you right now. A pupil is not above his teacher, but everyone, after he has been fully trained, will be like his teacher. I need you to understand before we break this down. All of you are listening to somebody. Your attitudes, your demeanor, your belief system, you all are listening to somebody. The question is, who are you listening to? A lot of parents, they freak out because I don't know if you as a parent ever said this or your parents said this to you. I didn't raise you that way. You ever heard that before? I didn't raise you like that. What a lot of parents don't realize is you were talking to them, but they weren't listening to you. You may not have raised them like that because they had other teachers that were informing them, and those other teachers were determining what they believe, what they think. Music, the media, and all the other things were raising them, and though you were telling them one thing, your insight and that influence was bigger. So guess what? No, you didn't raise them that way because you weren't their primary teacher. They were in your house, but they weren't listening to what you were saying. They were listening to other things. So yes, you didn't raise them like that, but that's not on you. That's on who they decided to allow to raise their thinking, to raise their minds and their perspectives. And I find it fascinating that you can be around people, show them everything, anything, but they're not like you. But that's not a mystery, y'all. Just because you're talking to people don't mean they're listening to you. Just because you give people insight don't mean they've gained the insight. I can nod my head and go, and go do absolutely everything else that I want to go do. Why? Because hearing someone say something doesn't make them your teacher. Hearing someone give you insight, learning from people don't mean they're your teacher. I've been teaching in a seminary and college for over 30 years, and I listen to some people and say, I never taught you that. You didn't get that from me. You were in my class, but you weren't in my teaching. You heard, but you heard and you did some things totally different. I have people coming to me who, and this is just weird. Y'all know, as a biblical counselor, we don't believe in psychotherapy. We don't believe in integrating secular ideas. And I still have students say, hey, Professor Ellen, I'm getting into the psychotherapy program. Could you endorse that for me? It's like, then I obviously was not your teacher. If you can come ask me that question, you didn't learn from me. You heard some things, but you didn't learn. No student is above his teacher, but when fully trained, will be like his teacher. Let's break that down. Y'all with me so far? Your spiritual teacher is shaping and influencing this about you. Your thoughts, your motives, your desires, leading you to become all of who he or she is. Let me make this plain. I know we think that we're smart, and I know we think that our thoughts are our thoughts and that we came up with stuff, but the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah. You know why you think the way you think? Because somebody gave you that way of thinking. You know why you desire what you desire? Because someone helped cultivate those desires in you. No child comes out of the womb wanting Air Jordans. Did you hear that? No child comes out of the womb understanding the value system of what's expensive and not expensive. That doesn't come out of the womb. That's learned. That's gained. That has been given by somebody at some level. Watch this. You want what you want because someone shaped you to want it. You think what you think because someone shaped you to think that way. Your teachers are on display when you open your mouth. See, it's important we catch this because no student is above his teacher, and Jesus is trying to make it plain. You can be sitting around me, but still not be learning of me, but hear what I'm saying. Does that make sense to everybody? And Jesus is trying to help us understand who's your teacher. Because watch this. Your teacher, let me say it again, is influencing your thoughts, your motives, your desires, leading you to become all of who he or she is. But secondly, your spiritual teacher is shaping and influencing your communication, your manner of life, how you relate to others, leading you to become all of who he, she is. Let me make it plain. You know why you act the way you act and relate the way you relate? Because you learned it from somebody else. You don't just do stuff you do. You don't just relate the way you relate. You learned it from somebody. And to the extent that person has influence in your life, you talk the way you talk, you act the way you act, you behave the way you behave, you relate the way you relate. That is just that simple. So you could be hearing, watch this, you could be in any church in the world, you can be listening to any podcast, you can be watching anybody on television. That means nothing. The person that's teaching you is the one that you're acting the most like. The person that's teaching you is showing in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you relate. That reveals your real teacher. And too often people miss that. And I hear parents and I hear pastors all the time, and I'll sit with them in the office. Man, I don't understand. I preach this, I preach. I said, bro, you misunderstood. You thought because you prepared a sermon, you thought because they show up every Sunday that they're listening to you. What you don't understand is not everybody's listening to everything you're saying. Get over yourself. You be faithful to plant seeds. And there are 4 people in that audience. There are those, as soon as you said it, they forgot it and they out the door. There are those who hear it, they really emotionally excited, but they ain't gonna do nothing with it. Those are there, they hear it, but they got too many things going on, so they with you, but they're not with you because they're thinking about what they need to cook. They're thinking about what they need to do. They're thinking about all the things that need to happen tomorrow. They hear, but they're not here. Then there are other people who are actually listening. There are 4 types of people that show up every Sunday, and that's not your job to control that. It's your job to understand the reality that people will be who they will be according to who they choose to listen to, and you don't control any of that, but you get to watch it and learn what people are learning, who their teachers are. Are y'all tracking with me? He says no student is above his teacher, but when fully trained will be like his teacher. Now, here's where he gets to that I really love, because he's trying to get to this end. Here's the third point. Your spiritual teacher is being led either by Satan or the Son of God, leading you to become all of who Satan is or all of who the Son of God is. Let me make it plain. Whoever's teaching you, their ultimate influence is either the devil or Jesus. That's their ultimate influence. So whoever is really, really shaping your mind, your manner, your mouth, and everything about you, they're either being led by Satan or the Son of God, and you're becoming more and more either like Satan or the Son of God, every person you are listening to that you have allowed to influence you. And that's a very important thing, y'all, because see, your whole life and who you're allowing in here speaks volumes about who your true master is. I've had to learn over the years, everything that people say is not as important as what you watch what they do. That shows you who they're really listening to. Because see, if you're like me, I grew up with a mother who taught you how to behave. Now, if I don't know how to do nothing else, I know how to behave. When you in a crowd, this is how you behave. Listen, when you in the store, you don't touch nothing that's not yours. When you're around grown folk, you say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. When you're in other people's house, you don't ask how much that is. Am I making sense to you? You smile and you be respectful when you're around people. See, I know how to behave. But is that really who I am? Are y'all tracking with me? See, when Mama wasn't around, Nicholas showed up. Are you tracking with me? So I know how to behave around adults and how to behave, but the real me showed up. And here's what's crazy. The real me was hearing what Mama was saying, but the real me was driven by what Satan was trying to show me. And I learned how to behave all my life. When to smile, when not to smile, when to say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, how to do the right thing for the wrong reason. See, I knew all that stuff. That's why I don't get excited when people behave around me, because that don't mean I'm their teacher. They just know the right thing to do. I want to know when they're not around me, when nobody's looking, when no one is going to give them a grade or give them a spanking or take their money or give them rejection or any of those things, when nobody is going to take something from them and they're free to be who they really are. Who's your teacher? See, that's what Jesus is exposing. And that's the thing that I'm trying to get you to see at the core, not how you behave, but who you really are. Who's really shaping and forming the thoughts and the desires of your life. Here's the third point. Y'all with me so far? Third point, as he breaks this down, then he gets into something, because he says, now, first of all, I need you to understand that people don't know where they're going can be blinding you because you listen to them and they taking you where they're going. You need to think about who you're allowing in your life. That's number one. Number two, you need to understand that your teachers are leading you to become as they are. But then he goes into an area, and it seems like a shift, but it makes sense. Then he goes into this thing of hypocrisy. And it's interesting how he goes there, but I get it, because sometimes when you're trying to teach folk the very thing you're not doing. Sometimes you're trying to guide people, you try to guide them in the very thing that you can't be guided to. A lot of people love to correct but can't be corrected. A lot of people want you to listen to them, but they don't pay attention and learn how to listen. A lot of people want to be heard, but they don't know how to be quiet to listen. A lot of people want to guide, but you can't take them anywhere. See, it's amazing when you get to this context, Jesus is breaking down the teaching and the guides and what you're learning. So then he gets to this context. Watch what he says. Why, and notice the words, why do you look at the speck that's in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that's in your own eye? Do you see the difference between the speck and the log? Something just getting on your nerves about somebody else, and you feel the need to tell them, but that very little thing that they're dealing with doesn't compare to the big old thing in your life that you keep ignoring. Then he says, how can you say to your brother, brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when you yourself do not see the log that's in your own eye? It's like the person trying to correct you that can't be corrected. It's like the person that always thinks they're right, and then you tell them they're wrong, and then they can't hear because they're always right. Am I making sense? And they miss the whole picture. You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will clearly see to take the speck out of your brother's eye. I love the reality of this, because here's what he's trying to say in the context of this passage. Beware of people taking you in the wrong direction, because you're allowing people in your mind, and they can be leading you to destruction. Understand that whoever you're allowing to teach you, they're shaping the way you think, they're shaping the way you desire, the way you believe, they're shaping everything about you. Oh, but on the way, as we're talking about that, be careful of your own hypocrisy. Be careful of those people that you try to make your little pets and projects. You know, people you keep nitpicking to death, and they got this wrong and they need to fix this, and then they become your little projects because you feel like you need to be the one to help them because you are the one to save everybody. And be careful of all these people you want to help, but watch this, can't nobody help you. Be careful of all these people you got to sit down and talk to and have this conversations with and try to tell them what they need to hear and show them this, but yet you don't have 2 minutes to sit down because you're too busy because your mind is everywhere else. Be careful of always trying to help these folk do all these things, but you can't help yourself. Be careful of that thing that you think is so big in their life that's really small compared to the big thing in your life. See, a lot of friends won't talk to you because you can't listen yourself. And you know what's weird? You may have the right insight, but because you're not listening to it, they don't want to listen to you. A lot of parents don't even understand their children won't listen to them, not because the parent isn't wrong or is wrong, but they say, well, Mama, Daddy, you telling me, but you do it, shut up. You Nick, shut up. And it's amazing how that hypocrisy runs throughout the life and relationships. Are y'all tracking with me? He's saying in the passage, beware of this. You trying to fix and correct and challenge, and you want to be their teacher, but you can't be taught. You want them to listen, but you won't listen. You want them to understand, but you won't stand under. You want them to get from you, but you're not getting. And you don't recognize that whatever they're dealing with is small compared to the whole lot that you're not dealing with. Now, before we dive into it, I've said it before, but I'll give you some examples. Whatever you are the most irritated about with people in your life, those are the areas you're not dealing with in your own life. Either you got the same mindset or you got the same behavior. Whatever you keep trying to control in other people that you feel like you got to control in them, it's the very thing that's uncontrollable in you. And you're trying to nitpick them to death as an escape from not dealing with your own stuff. He says, beware, 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 beware of the hypocrisy. Because it's dangerous. Watch what he says. Beware of seeking to control and correct the small faults in the lives of others, while being oblivious to the correcting the bigger problems in your life. Let that sink in. Let me read it again. Beware of seeking to control and correct the small faults in the lives of others while being oblivious to correcting the bigger problems in your life. I've discovered that people who can't listen the most are the people who talk the most. Did you hear what I said? The people who can't, they interrupt, they talk, I know, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It's funny, but then they don't want you to sit down and shut up and listen to them. But they're the main ones that cannot receive, but they want you to give and listen and focus. But they can't be corrected. Think about the areas in your life right now that nobody can tell you nothing. And think about how much you tell everybody in those same exact areas. Beware of trying to control and correct the small faults in the lives of others while being oblivious to correcting the bigger problems in your own life. Here's the second thing. Beware of trying to deal with the small matters of others while ignoring your own self-righteousness and self-indulgence, revealing your massive self-centeredness. You know what a lot of people call discernment is just being critical? And they don't know it. They think they're very discerning. You just see stuff in other people you're not dealing with in your own life. That's not discerning. That's just you ignoring your life. You think it's discerning. You think it's impressive. You think it's deep. It's not really deep. You just see so much in them that you're not dealing with in you, and folk be like, oh, how did you know that? Well, they don't know it takes one to know one. See, true discernment moves beyond being critical to being caring and compassionate and patient. See, that's when you know you're really discerning and not just being critical, because you're not irritated, you're not agitated, you're not trying to fix them as your little projects. You care about them, and you can be patient with them because as the grace of God, that used to be you. But see, when it's still you, oh, why don't they just understand? Oh, they get on my nerves. Takes one to know one. And wherever you are dealing with a lot of self-righteousness, you know, can't nobody tell you nothing, but you want to tell everybody, well, you're dealing with all this self-indulgence. It's about me, it's about me, it's about me, it's about me. All those things show up in how we challenge and check each other. In the areas of our lives where we're so right that we're so wrong and can't nobody tell us nothing. We find it just amazing why people won't listen to us. Because they're saying to themselves, you don't get it. You so right, you wrong. You corrected me over here, but there's 10 areas just like this in your life. Y'all tracking with me? You so full of yourself, you trying to tell me how full of myself I am, but you so full of yourself over here. Now, here's the problem. It don't mean that they're not right. And they're very accurate. Why are they very accurate? Because they're looking at themselves. Don't mean that what they're telling you ain't true. It's just hard for you to hear because you see it in them and they're not doing something in their lives. Beware of trying to deal with the small matters in others while ignoring your own self-righteousness and self-indulgence, revealing your massive self-centeredness. Here's the third thing. You can't help solve other people's problems effectively and carefully until you what? That's why a lot of people in the world of teaching, in the world of ministry fall. And let me tell you what happens to us as preachers. And it happens, and if we're not careful, it can help hit all of us. When you first start preaching and teaching, your preaching and teaching comes out of your own life. You've learned some things, you start to see some things, your life has changed by it, and then you start sharing with other people, and they go, oh, man, I needed that. Oh, that was just wonderful. And then you start sharing a little bit more, but then there's something that happens as you shift. And the shift happens is you start to recognize, God has given me a calling, a responsibility. So then you start focusing all your time on helping other people learn. Guess what happens? You stop growing yourself. So then you become very sharp and wise at helping these people see stuff while you ignore it in your life. And here's what happens. Satan loves that, because what happens is those very gifted and talented pastors and preachers that rise off of TikTok and rise off the reel, and before you know it, they got all these massive followings, and then everybody's shocked when they caught him with the secretary or they caught him doing all these things. Because here's what happened. He was watching his doctrine and stopped watching his life. He understood what needed to be given to people while ignoring it in his own world. Do you know that's what we do? We can get so caught up in trying to help and get people to see that we forget that we ourselves need the very same thing that we're giving other people. Story is told of this person who had this window that was not so clean. Guess what he saw in everybody else's life? How dirty the other windows were. And he kept trying to tell everybody, man, your window dirty, your window dirty. You need to do something about your window. And it wasn't until he cleaned his own window he realized it's not that their windows were really that dirty. I was looking at them through a dirty lens. Beware of your own hypocrisy. As we walk through the passage a little bit more, he says in the first part, verses 43 to 45, your lifestyle will reveal if ultimately your teacher is Satan or the Son of God. And this is important because this is what I tell you, I don't listen to what people say as much as I watch what they do. That tells me who they're listening to. Because people, listen, I learn how to behave. I know the right thing to do in the right context. But let the pressure hit. Let no one be around. Let nobody can see that can do anything to me. That's when you find out who I really am. That's who you find out who I'm serving. That's who you find out who I'm really walking with. Not when everybody's around, but when nobody's around. And it's just me and Satan and the Savior. When no one can judge me, when no one can call me out, that's when you find out who my real teacher is. Are y'all tracking with me? Notice what he says, and I want us to understand this because this is important, because this is where he exposes in reality how you can see who's teaching you. He says, for there is no good tree which produces bad fruit, nor on the other hand, a bad tree which produces good fruit. Now, right there, he's talking about conduct. If you walk in by the power of Jesus, you're going to look like it. Your conduct going to show it. If you're walking by the power of Satan, your conduct going to show it. So what he's telling you there is the way you carry yourself that day is exposing who's influencing you. That's simple. You can't tell me that I'm walking with Jesus and I got a potty mouth and a bad attitude that day. Does that make sense? Now, I may be his child, but I'm not living like his child. Let me put it another way. I may be an Ellen, but I'm not acting the way I was taught to act. Did y'all track that? So that day I'm reflecting something totally different than my training. So I can't say I'm walking this way and representing when that day I'm not representing. It was funny. We were talking about this. I was hanging out with my boys and we had a great time. And we were walking around looking at all these different things. And we went to this store and I became a Jordan fan. I was already a Jordan fan, but I became a real Jordan fan. We went to this store. And they showed all these different types of Jordans. And I think I'm an 11 and a 12. What am I? I'm a 10 to 14. So I like the 10s and the 14s. I've learned that. Now, the rest of y'all don't worry about it. Just understand it's a good thing, right? But what I thought about, and I said to them that got me, I said, isn't it interesting how this man's name we're willing to put on our backs and on our feet, and we're willing to pay money for. That's how much we're willing because we value his name. And because we value his name, you don't even have to say Michael Jordan. You just say Jordan, or you just see the name. And watch this. Nike is its own company, but when you see the check, you don't think Nike, you think Jordan. His name has that much influence that you'll take your hard-earned money and put it on your feet. Somebody else's name that has no heaven or hell. That watch this. You ain't getting paid. He ain't getting paid. If I was him, I'd be sitting back. You know what? I would be an arrogant person too. Because watch this. I go somewhere and over 80% of the people got my name on them. And I'm getting paid. Now, you know what's sad about that? That's the influence of the culture. But we'll put Jesus on our back in theory, who has delivered us from the penalty of sin, the power of sin, and one day the presence of sin. But we won't give him all of us, and he has a heaven and hell. And when you see the cross, it should be just as powerful as you see that check. But it's not. And we're willing to carry the name of somebody else, but not the name of the one who died for us. Are y'all tracking with me? I ain't got nothing against Jordans, because I'm about to find some and get some. I'm trying to make the point that his name is more valuable than Jesus to most of us. We'll put in a paycheck to Jordan what we won't put in the church for his agenda. We'll spend $800 on some Jordans, but won't put $20 in the thing for Jesus. Value is all I'm saying. You learn that. You learn that. That don't just happen. You learn that. He says again, watch the next part. For men do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they pick grapes from a briar bush. Each man is known by its own fruit. Now, by the way, known, let me just go back. For each man is known by its own fruit. Fruit is something that's consistent. So we're not talking about one day, we're talking about a consistency. To be known is to have a reputation. So it's one thing to act a certain way, and you can have a good day and a bad day. You can fool me and act like Jesus one day. And I think, oh, you belong to Jesus. And then the rest of your life, you start to show me who you really are. Because see, we're not talking about a day. We're talking about a lifestyle. Each fruit is known. Each tree is known. That's reputation. That's character. That is a consistent process. How are you known? That's your reputation. What do people know you as? Because whatever they know you as, you've built a consistent pattern of being that over time. Jesus is showing us, you know what? No good tree can produce a bad fruit. In other words, if you're truly his, it's going to be consistent over time. If you're truly not his, it's going to be consistent over time. Why? Because what you're known for is a consistent pattern of how you carry yourself. The good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth what is good, and the evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth what is evil, for his mouth speaks from that which fills his heart. Let me just break down what he's saying here. Your conduct exposes that either Satan or the Son of God is your teacher. Your character exposes that either Satan or the Son of God is your teacher. Your conversation exposes that either Satan or the Son of God is your teacher. I teach people this in basic counseling 101. If you just shut up enough and just listen to people, you listen to their mouth, you watch their manner, you look at how they show you they manage their money, they tell you everything you need to know. You know who their teacher is. It don't matter what church they go to. It doesn't matter how much doctrine they've learned. You know who their teacher are. Because your conduct, your character, and your conversation reveals you. I'm not talking about how to behave. I'm talking about when you're comfortable and nobody's around, there's no judgment. What shows up and shows out consistently? That's your teacher. That's your influence. That's who's guiding you. Jesus says no student is above his teacher. Now, I want you to let that sink in for a moment. Because it's not about the church as much as it's about what you do in the church you're in. I'll give an example. We were in this nice area, and there was this, I had never seen this it was a six-speed BMW. I had never seen it. Beautiful car. And the car was nice, but guess what? The car couldn't be driven because it was corrupt. But it looked nice on the outside, but it's corrupt on the inside. Could not be driven. What I'm trying to say to you is what you look like on the outside is not as important what's on the inside. Who's teaching you? Who are you really following? Who are you really listening to? What's really gathering and guarding your mouth, your mind, your morals? That's most important about you. Let me close. Here's the key point. Watch me. Watch this. Since no student is above his teacher, you are becoming like your teacher. So, you like to tell people stuff. You like to show them what you know. You like to talk to them all the time. You like to be the authority in the room. You like to make sure everybody know what you know. So here's my question to you. Are you directing others by traditions and preferences? Are you leading others into a ditch because you're oblivious to your own faults? Are you seeking to control and correct others in the right direction while minimizing the character issues as not as important as the person you're seeking to control and correct? Are you impatient when dealing with the sins and faults of others with whom you are trying to control and correct in the right direction? Now, here's a big one. Are you reading this and thinking about someone or what someone else is doing and not doing for you, instead of seeing what you're doing and not doing for someone else? Because some of y'all looking at this like, that's right, so-and-so should have been here. They need to hear this. Because that's what they're doing to me. Some of you are so full of yourselves, you see everything that I'm saying in light of everybody else and not yourself. And you can't wait to tell other people what you heard so they can be corrected. Does your conduct, character, and conversation reveal preoccupation with Jesus Christ or preoccupation with the life professing Christ but living for self? Watch this. Who you think is your teacher may not be. It's time to evaluate your life to see who is really teaching you. Let me put my name in here. You may be listening to Nicholas Ellen, professor and preacher of Community Faith Bible Church, but following somebody else. Your consistent pattern in life is exposing who you are following. Now, let's be clear. Everyone has bad days where we do not represent Christ. You'd have called me the other day, you'd have wondered if I was a Christian or not. We all have bad days. But we're talking about a consistent life pattern that exposes your becoming like Christ or becoming like Satan as a result of your teacher. You can't have a bad day every day, all the time, consistently, 24/7, 365. That's you. And you just revealed who your real teacher is. Are y'all tracking with me? So if we break this down, I want you to look at this chart. This is the simplicity of it. By whose standards are you living? Here's how it goes. If you break this down, you got two sides, okay? You got God's standards on one side, you got Satan on the other side. Now watch this. Here's how this works. When you break down this chart, my belief system determines something. My belief system determines the way I think about life, the way I see things in life. So my belief system is guiding me, but my belief system is guided by either God or Satan. So as a result of my belief system, guess what? Now I've got some values. There's some things that I value. There's some things that I treasure. And there are some desires. And that determines the things I live for in my life. And see, that's built on my belief system, and my belief system is built on who is my teacher. And watch this, my values, my treasures, and my desires, then that determines my choices. And so my choices, the decisions I make, are based upon my values and my desires, and that's coming from my belief system, and my belief system is coming from either Satan or the Son of God. And watch this, my choices are determining the consequences that are going on in my life right now. The condition of my life with God, with my family, with my friends, and others, and in circumstances reveals whether I have been submitting to the teachings of Satan or the teachings of the Son of God. I know you want to blame the people. You want to blame the past. You want to blame your parents. You want to blame all the pressures and pains and problems. You are where you are right now because of who you've been listening to. Did you hear what I said? The condition of your life is because you've decided who is your main teacher. And whoever your main teacher is, they have shaped what you think. They have shaped your values. They've shaped how you live. And guess what? You are where you are because of that. So you got to really start to wheel it back and ask some very simple questions. Who is my teacher? And that's not necessarily where you go to church. Did you hear what I said? I just want y'all to be clear. Those things are not the same thing. They should be, but they're not the same thing. Where you go to church and who is your teacher can be two different things, because you are becoming like the very people you're allowing in your life. It's showing up in how you think. It's showing up in how you speak. It's showing up in what you value. It's showing up in how you relate. Your life is becoming like the people who have the most influence on you, and they are either being influenced by Satan or the Savior. So you got a decision today. You need to go back. Take this week. New Year's coming. Look at all of 2025 and say, if I get honest with myself, it's just me, as some of my friends used to say, you, me, and the fence post. Let me put it this way. You got in the fence post. If y'all just get honest and have a serious conversation, Lord, who has been the most influential in my life over 2025? Now, the first thing in your self-righteousness is to say Jesus. Okay? But look at how you've been treating people. Look at how you've been managing your money. Look at how you've been managing the scriptures. Look at how you've been managing your life. and then come back and ask that question. Look at what you've been listening to. Look at what you've been watching. And I'm not getting into that self-righteous, don't watch rated R movies. And see, y'all know I'm not that guy. Because you need to manage and guide what you listen and look at the level that you understand is going to influence you to evil or not. You need to understand that for your life. And that's different levels for different people. Y'all understand what I'm saying? I'm asking you at the level of all the music, the media, and all of what you've been doing, what's that been reflecting in your life? And you know it. You know the excuses you've made, the choices you've made. You've looked at the way you've used or misused people or loved or lacked love with people. All of that should show up. The people who tried to talk to you, but you didn't want to listen, and then you try to give that same advice to other folk and wonder why they're not listening to you. All that kind of stuff should be a manifestation for you to go, wow, Lord, what have you tried to teach me in 2025 to reveal who's been my teacher? Because whoever that's been, they did their job. Because I'm reflecting them more than anything else. Is that you? Or is that the evil one? Let's pray.